Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to this frequently asked question FAQ video. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. I so appreciate your questions and your interactions. Please do keep them coming. Absolutely love interacting with you guys online. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com, and the YouTube comments as well. I always try to acknowledge them. I always try to give you a thumbs up or a like, whatever the case may be, to let you know how much I appreciate our interaction, our growing and learning together. This question comes from Dennis, who contacted me through my website and asked about unaspected planets. What do I think about unaspected planets in a chart? So let me define that first. Essentially, in the chart, and I speak about this in my book as well, Astrology Realized, the planets are different parts of our soul. The planets are parts of our soul. They each have their own needs, and those needs desire to be acknowledged and developed. They desire to evolve over the course of our lifetime. The sign that the planets are in are how we express this part of our soul, how this part of our soul finds its expression. The house that the planet is in suggests the most likely area of life that we find that expression in. And the aspects that the planets make to each other are how these different planets communicate. So aspects are ultimately conversation. So when I say planets are having conversations, like I like to say in my horoscopes, what that is aspects. And when planets communicate with each other, when they're an aspect to each other, regardless of the type of aspect, they are doing so to help each other more fully realize the needs of that part of your soul. They work together, sometimes in harmony, like is the case with the trine or the sextile, sometimes with tension, as is the case with the square, sometimes the opposition, sometimes the conjunction, sometimes through people, as is the case with the opposition, and sometimes by working closely with and blending energies with another planet, as is the case with the conjunction. But sometimes a planet will not be having any real conversations with any other planet. So to me personally, I think of a planet as unaspected when it is not making any of the traditional or classic or Ptolemaic. So basically there are types of conversations that are called either classic or traditional or Ptolemaic, and these are conversations specifically mentioned in the foundational text to Western astrology, which is a book called Tetrabiblos by Ptolemy. And in this book, he mentions the conversations, the aspects that I just mentioned to you. But of course, astrology evolves, it grows, and it responds to the culture it finds itself in. New systems, new techniques, new aspects are constantly being developed as we come to understand ourselves and what it means to be a human being that much more expansively. And so there are also a lot more minor aspects as well. There's a type of conversation called a quincunx, which I have just created the video to as well, along with this video, which is somewhere in the middle between a major aspect and a minor aspect. However, for me personally, I don't look at the quincunx or any minor aspect very much. Okay, sometimes I'll take the quincunx into consideration, but if I'm looking at a planet to see if it's aspected or not, a quincunx in itself, to me personally, I don't consider that an aspected planet. I want to see one of the traditional conversations. I want to see one of the traditional aspects taking place to see how that planet is communicating with others, even if it's a wide orb, as we say. Even if the conversation is not very precise, mathematically precise, still, I will consider it a conversation if there's what we call a wide enough orb. Okay, so if the conversation is happening in a general way, not in a very exact way, still. However, sometimes a planet is standing all by itself, so it's not communicating with any other planets. And when that happens, it means that there will be certain times in life when a planet will come along by aspect and coax the energy of that planet out. coax you to have to acknowledge the needs of that part of your soul and to develop it in new ways. But it will tend to happen during periods of time. Whereas if there's a conversation, if a planet is in aspect to another planet in your birth chart, you have that working for you throughout your life. But by transit, when it's a planet right now speaking to a certain planet in your birth chart, that is something that happens for a period of time and then moves on. So that's one thing. You come to be more fully aware of the needs of that planet during specific transits that awaken that planet, the needs of that planet, that encourage you to manifest it and to bring the needs of that planet out to connect with other parts of your life. But in general, when I see an unaspected planet, as I said, for one, I say, okay, what aspects have happened, what are happening to help you get in touch with that energy. But if there isn't anything happen, or if all else is equal, if we're just looking at the birth chart, an unaspected planet suggests that that energy remains sort of isolated. Ultimately, that's what it is. That planet's not talking to any other planet. That planet's isolated. That planet's on its own. So that planet is on its own in a specific area of life, and it's asked to manifest itself, it's asked to reveal itself, it's asked to be experienced in a very isolated, specific manner in that area of life, which is a lot harder to do if you don't have other parts of you sort of supporting. For example, let's say, to keep it simple, let's say your sun. Sun is where you step into yourself and your power, you step into your light. It's where you become more and more you over the course of this life. Well, if you've got your sun unaspected, let's say it's unaspected in your 11th house. Well, the 11th house has to do with friendships, okay? It has to do with higher wishes as well. But ultimately, the 11th house is a very social house. It has to do with sort of the groups we belong to, associations, fellowships, whatever the case may be, that we belong to, and also how we relate on terms of friendships and acquaintances as well. And so when the sun is isolated, it's unaspected in the 11th house, you know that that is an important part of how you are going to realize what it means to be you. But then how do you take what it means to be you and express that in other areas of life beyond just with your friends? Well, that becomes part of what different cycles in your life will encourage you to do. But as a default, it'll almost be like, okay, I can really be with myself. I learn a lot about myself when I'm with my friends and when I'm with these groups. But then in other areas of life, you find yourself having to be different. You find it more difficult to bring forward that true essence, that honesty of who you really are, and to express that becomes more challenging. But that doesn't mean that that's the end-all be-all. It just means that you will be asked at different points of your life to bring forward that self and to ask it to be brought forward in different areas of life, in different areas of life, at different points throughout your life, and in different ways, depending on what planet is aspecting the sun and what type of aspect is being made. So if you have a planet, if you have Pluto squaring that sun or Saturn squaring that sun by transit, you're going to be asked to step into that sun and to honor the needs of that sun in a different way than if you had Pluto trining your sun or Saturn trining your sun. So the type of conversation, the nature of the planet having that conversation will define a certain phase of life where you were asked to develop and evolve and encourage one part of you to connect with another part of your life and other parts of you in ways that you didn't know before. But thanks to that different phase, those experiences you had, you're able to more and more fully develop it. So it isn't that, okay, that's it, all hope is lost. You've got an unaspected moon, so your emotional needs will never be developed. Of course not. That's not what happens. It's that what your emotional needs are and what you understand them and how you bring them forward is going to constantly change as you go through different aspects throughout your life. So I hope that answered your question, Dennis. Thank you so much, everybody out there. So grateful for our interactions, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, NadiyaShah.com. Until we connect again, take care.